Hi again, everybody. This is Matt and Janine, and we're back with another series of media here. And this one, we're going to be doing a wrap up for the last couple of months of March and April of what we've been reading.
Okay, so the first thing that I have is a book haul from Chandler for books that she sent us for Christmas. Um, Two of these books are books that she gave to Matt that we're going to be reading together. I read them in January. He's going to read them after he reads these two that he's going to talk about. The first book that I read is Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. This is a retelling of Dracula. And I really enjoyed this author's writing style. This is my first book by her, and I can't wait to read more. I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book is Then She Was Gone. Lisa Jewell is one of my favorite thriller authors. I have also read, let's see. Hmm. Oh, I read None of This Is True by her, which I gave 3 stars, and I'm currently reading Ralph's Party, which I just started on Thursday, and I'm on chapter 8. I will read you what this book is about. Ellie Mack was the perfect daughter, and then she was gone. 10 years after Ellie's disappearance, her mother, Laurel Mack, is trying to put her life back together when she meets an unexpectedly charming man in a cafe. Before she knows it, she's meeting Floyd's daughters, and his youngest, Poppy, takes Laurel's breath away because the eerily precocious Poppy is a spitting image of Ellie. And now the unanswered question she's tried so hard to put to rest began haunting Laurel anew. Where did Ellie go? Did she wander away from home, as the police have long suspected, or did something more sinister happen? A haunting page-turning of sheer perfection book list starred review. Then She Was Gone is a gripping and emotionally resonant tale of one mother's quiet quest to uncover the clues she failed to recognize and finally discover the truth of what happened to her daughter. This book was fantastic. I really love Lisa Jewell's writing, and this thriller kept me on the edge of my seat. I don't want to spoil what happens in case you want to read it. I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book I recently reread is Lulu's Cafe by T.I. Lowe. This author is a new author for me. This book is set in South Carolina. And the cafe in this book is basically Luke's diner from Gilmore Girls, but changed the setting from Connecticut to the beach, and that's where you get the setting for this book. This is my first time reading a book by this author, and I really enjoy her writing. Let's see. Which discussion question do I want to answer? The author paints vivid pictures throughout the book with her descriptive narratives. What was your favorite descriptive scene? I mean, I think my favorite descriptive scenes were in the diner when they're describing how they're cooking the food, and also when they're at the boat pier and like the scenes on the water and everything. I gave this book 4.75 stars, which is very close to a 5. The next book that Chandler gave me for Christmas is Matthew Perry, a biography, Laughing Through Pain. So this is what I'm assuming to look like Matthew Perry's memoir under a different title. So if you have watched my other videos where I review Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, that's essentially what this book is. And I'm probably going to read it again, even though I've already read Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. So I gave Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing 5 stars, even though it's a memoir, and it's all views of memoirs are subjective. The next books that Matt and I buddy read together were the Rome, Kentucky series by Sarah Adams. We reread the first 3 books before we read the release that came out in December. What is your favorite book in this series?
I think my favorite one was When in Rome, and in addition to that, Big Bar and Steel.
What do you like the best about One in Rome?
It's really an introduction to what it's like in that little town because Amelia, who is the main character for that first book, she goes by her alter ego of Ray Rose as a music performer. And what happens is she goes on her way to an interview, but since her car broke down, then she has to take the night off, and then she meets Noah. And that's where things start as an adventure.
Last year, when Beg, Borrow, or Steal came out, we had the delightful pleasure of meeting Sarah Adams at Books A Million at her release party. And I asked her if she was inspired by Gilmore Girls when she wrote this book, when she was coming up with the town of Rome, Kentucky. And she said yes. And this cover reminds me of the fold in the cheese scene from Schitt's Creek when David and Moira are making enchiladas. So, what did you give Run in Rome for a rating?
I think I gave that first one 8 out of 10, or 4 out of 5 for reading.
The next book that we buddy read with Kathleen is In Your Dreams, which is the most recent release and the final book in the series, Rome, Kentucky. I'm very sad to see the series end because I've really gotten to know these characters well over the course of the 4-book series. My favorite couple in this series is definitely Annie and Will from Practice Makes Perfect. With this couple, I had trouble believing their romance because they seem to be lacking chemistry. Other reviewers I have seen videos of on YouTube have said this too, specifically Chandler Ainsley. And if I can find a video where she reviews this book, I will post it in the description. So this book focuses on Maddie, who is a chef who moves back to her hometown to help her friend James open his own farm-to-table restaurant. And as I was just saying, I think that Maddie and James really lacked a lot of chemistry with each other, and their relationship did not seem believable. But again, I love all the character interactions with all the other characters in the town and all of with Maddie and the rest of her siblings, Emily, Noah, and Annie. And I gave this book 3.7 to 4 stars. I gave this book and Big Boy Steer 4 stars, and I gave Practice Makes Perfect 5 stars.
Yeah, I thought in that book, In Your Dreams, Maddie was lacking her experience compared to her other sisters and brother, too, because she was working on being a culinary chef. But then when she was getting to opening her restaurant in Rome, Kentucky, which was the farm table experience, then things were going a little bit desperate.
The next book that I read for the From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR for this month was for this time period of 4 months was Circe by Madeline Miller. This was a reread for me. This is by the same author as The Song of Achilles, and it is a retelling of the Greek myth Circe. And this goes along with the episode where Monica, Rachel, and Phoebe are reading the self-help book, Be Your Own Windkeeper, about how to be your own woman in your relationship. And let's see, which discussion question did I want to answer? Oops. Here we go. Circe is interested in Penelope from the moment she hears about her from Odysseus. What draws her to... I think what draws her to Penelope is that she's just an interesting person and she wants to get to know her better, so that way she can find out if she has anything in common with her. And then Circe's gift is transformation. How does she transform from the beginning to the novel to the end? I think she grows as a character because she meets a lot of people along the way that inspire her to be her own person and to grow. And that's what I really liked about this book, and I'm definitely going to be rereading it again soon. The next book I read for them for Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR is Everything's Coming Up Rosie by Courtney Walsh. Courtney Walsh fast became my favorite contemporary romance author upon a recommendation of The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley from Jess and Emmeline at These Lyrics and Lines, who don't really update their channel anymore. I'm quite sad about that because they have a lot of really great videos. I will link the video where they talk about The Happy Life of Isadora Bentley in the description if I can find it. This book focuses on Rosie, who moves back to her small town after her acting career in New York City hits a standstill to get a job teaching theater to a group of senior citizens at a local nursing home, and they're putting on Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, which I have been in, so I connected to the actors in this book because they were in a play that I have been in, so I was really familiar with the plot of the play, and I just thought it was really a fun book to read. And my discussion question that I wanted to answer is, have you ever given up on a dream? No, I haven't. And then the other one is, when Rosie first arrives at Sunset Hills and realizes her mistake, she considers leaving, not ever thinking this might be exactly where she belongs. Have you ever misjudged a situation in your own life and almost quit before giving it a chance? What would you have missed out on if you had walked away? So I have never experienced any similar situation to what Rosie experiences when she first gets to the job at the senior center. Like, I have never experienced that in a job before, but I guess the advice that I could give if you ever face a situation like that is just give it a chance, and then if you don't end up liking it, just make your own decision on if you want to stay. The last book that I wanted to talk about in this wrap-up is And Now Back to You, which is B.K. Borison's release from February. This is the second book in the Heartstring series, where she reinterprets 90s rom-coms by Nora Ephron into modern day romance texts. And this book focuses on Jackson and Delilah, who are two competing meteorologists at the same news station. And I love their dynamic, and I love Jackson's dynamic with his sisters. There's a conversation in this book where they're texting back and forth. Jackson has full custody of his teenage sisters because their mother and father are absent from their lives, and I just love that because I've never kind of seen that family dynamic kind of explored, where the older sibling is the parent or the parental figure for the younger siblings. Actually, no, I have, because that's in Just for the Summer, when Justin has to take his care of his younger sisters. So yeah, I love that dynamic, and also Jackson's dynamic with Delilah is really sweet, and I love how their relationship develops. There's also another really well done Alzheimer's plotline in here, like I have seen in The Merge and Say You'll Remember Me. And there's another book I've read recently that has a really good Alzheimer's plotline. But yeah, I gave this book 4.5 to 5 stars, and I highly recommend this series. The first book in this series was based on Sleepless in Seattle, which I didn't like quite as much. I gave that book 3 stars, and the next book that's coming out next year is based on You've Got Mail, which I need to still see. So, did you want to talk about this book?
Yeah, right now I'm reading this book called Love Hypothesis, and it's one book of the many by Allie Hazelwood. Now, this is the one where this girl named Olive Smith is in the situation where she is in this laboratory, and somehow the hypothesis starts on every chapter where she's trying to recapture something about what's in the heart of a man. But I'm on 5 chapters, so I'm going to see where this goes. What do you think so far?
I mean, I read this book in March because Kathleen and I buddy read it for our TBR where we talked about student-teacher relationships. We reviewed this book back on March 28th, and I feel this book represents the Ross and Elizabeth dynamic in Friends, and Ellie Hazelwood did a good job with that.
And another book I've been reading was Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. My mother lent me this book, and I got about halfway to reading it, but it's set in different time periods. The ancient past in Rome, near the present day, and then it'll take place in the future. And what this basically is there's Anna in the Constantinople, where she lives on the formal walls where she learns to read. Then in the present day, there's an Idaho library where Zeno rehearses children in a plantation of Ethan's story. And then the not-so-distant future will take place on some of the intertwining, and it really makes you think of what they learned in basic terms of reading.
Do you have a favorite time period?
I think my favorite time period is the 15th century.
I thought that was pretty cool too. Yeah, I read this book last fall and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. How far are you along in it?
It's a long book, but I did go past page 300.
Okay, so what do you think you're going to eventually give it for a rating once you're done?
I'm going to give this maybe near the same as you, 4 out of 5.
Cool. Okay, so we will see you guys. We will not be back until the end of the summer with a new video because during the summer we have a lot of family stuff going on, and I will be busy with my play for Port Fringe, which I will. Once I get the information for the tickets, I will send it to Matt so he can put in the video description.
Yes, we're going to have a bunch of family friends and plays to do during the summer from all over New England. So wish us well, and we'll be back.
Our next video will be out at the end of August, but I'll have book review videos on my channel in the meantime, and I will send those links to Matt so he can put them in the description.
Have a good rest of the spring and summer, y'all.